Welcome to the Construction Management and Risk Management series. Today we'll be talking about lessons learned. Lessons learned meetings. Are we improving business processes, or are we just poking through the wreckage of the last project? In this session, we will discuss a method for making the lessons learned process a positive one and one that improves the business successes and future projects. Most lessons learned meetings are a quagmire of negative and unfortunate situations. We want to rise above the gripe session and the rehash of wrong turns. A few things have happened at this point. Oftentimes, the best and the brightest people from the project have moved on to newer and more exciting assignments. The people that do show up may not be there of their own choice. Unstructured and unled, this type of meeting can easily turn into a big waste of time. So first of all, to make the lessons learned a useful exercise, we need strong corporate support. And secondly, we need to be prepared and to have a sound structure. It's worth the investment, given that functional lessons learned meetings are essential to achieving business improvements. Since we are discussing negatives, political games and finger pointing are inevitable. To minimize the political games, we can do a survey online where input is anonymous prior to the lessons learned meeting. The survey should also include specific questions for each phase: planning, site prep, excavation, etc., etc. These responses can be used by the lessons learned facilitator to guide the discussions. 3 key questions should be included as part of the survey: what went right, what went wrong, and what needs to be improved. To make it useful, the things that went right and those that went wrong, all of these should be classified with causal information. In a manufacturing world, it's really simpler. It's either the people or the process. In construction, we need to add environment to the mix. Environment is everything external to your company that you do not control, from the client to the regulatory environment to the consultants to the final buyers. So when identifying causes of right and wrong events, specify the broad category as well as some detail. Do a postmortem on the risk analysis. Did the risks that you predicted at the beginning of the project, did they happen or not? Did things happen that were not identified? And your response plans, did they work or were they ineffective? And if so, why? Here's where the company processes are improved. Management by data. The payoff is for the whole company. The final and most important step in reaping business benefits from a risk management plan is to evaluate the results of the plan. There's no point in repeating the same issues in the next project. The best way to avoid them and become more efficient is to go through this lessons learned process properly. In evaluating the results of the risk management plan, this particular graphic can be useful. The flowchart's a guideline for evaluating response plan results. Each response plan should have a record associated with it, clarifying whether the plan worked or not, and whether it was even executed or needed. If it was unsuccessful, an assessment of the factors that led to its demise are often useful for a future record. A good response plan recording tool has the ability to incorporate this kind of record into it. One more note. Things change over time. Sometimes plans become unnecessary as risks or opportunities disappear. This third option, that the underlying risk changed, is also a possibility. It's not enough to just document what happened. It's important to develop a plan to address these issues in future projects. The best possible time is at this lessons learned meeting. While the information is fresh, much of the creativity, much of this knowledge will disappear by the time the next project starts. It's amazing how quickly things are forgotten. So it's important to identify what went right and how to repeat it, as well as what went wrong and how to address that. Project managers have a professional obligation to conduct lessons learned sessions for all projects with key internal and external stakeholders, particularly if the project yielded less than desirable results. The documentation must also be searchable and verifiable against all relevant info, and by the terms that someone would think of searching. So the descriptions should contain keywords and their synonyms to cover most of the obvious words that people would use when they would be looking for this kind of information. Document what went right, what went wrong, and what needs to be improved and how by project, by task, and by resources. Compare this information to the initial risk management analysis and, of course, finalize the risk management plan with the actual information. Finalizing the risk management plan, storing the data electronically for effective lessons learned database. This is valuable information. This is how you can avoid reinventing the wheel on future projects. To make the process easy and less time-consuming, use a digital software tool. RiskMP provides you a nice forum, a nice structure to develop the lessons learned. Create the lessons learned report. The summary page should include major findings, divergences, what was not on the plan, sources, and recommendations, all on one page. The detailed report should include detailed explanation of the summary and also key fields for future searches. Again, if you're using software such as RiskMP, the reports are automatically generated. The time invested in lessons learned is time that leads to improvements in your project management practices and in your business, given that it's time well spent. Thank you so much for participating in this Lessons Learned seminar, and I look forward to having you join us for our next session in this construction management risk management series.